Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Raze, aka Black Jarian, and today I'm bringing you a how to snipe video. Quick shout out to Testy and Sprat for inspiring this video. These guys are literally not human when it comes to sniping on any game that they touch. I mean, they've been dominating the Call of Duty sniping scene since I was a little kid.
I mean, bro is doing tricks on it.
Just sing the song!
But yeah, anyways, I'm going to be showing you all some tips that I found about sniping on Black Ops 6, as well as the best attachments to ensure that you hit the most shots as possible. Now, some of you may be thinking, who is this random guy on my YouTube recommended, and what does he know about sniping? Well, allow me to show you some credentials. I think I'm about to hit the best clip on the video.
One of y'all got to send me back to rehab, gang.
Keep on, aim high, keep on, 5 head.
Hey, claps.
Keep on.
5 on head.
5 on head. High, aim high, one more. Oh my god,
That never hit.
Clear, snipers down. Hostile appears KIA.
Yeah, I'm like that. I've actually been sniping since Black Ops 2, competed in multiple tournaments, I even got on ESPN. Anyways, tip number 1, practice centering. Basically, what that means is keeping your crosshair right at upper chest level before aiming in. So when you do aim in, you will already be on target and will have an easy elimination. However, if you don't have the right attachments, this is going to be extremely hard to do. For example, I'm going to be using the LW with no attachments, and I'm just going to line up my crosshairs right at upper chest level of this firing range dummy. Where this gets interesting is that you may notice when I scope in with my crosshair lined up, it's always swaying in a different direction. That is because snipers in this game have a lot of idle sway whenever you aim in. However, there is an attachment to counter this, and it is a huge game changer. The attachment is none other but the target laser. So what the target laser does is basically keeping your idle sway to your sniper as minimal as possible. So when you aim in, it'll be a lot easier to keep your crosshair centered and pick up an easy elimination. The best part about it doesn't necessarily matter how close or how far away your opponent is. You are going to have minimal idle sway and you are going to hit your shot as long as you're lined up with your crosshair. So now that we have covered centering and the attachment that's best for it, we can move on to tip number 2, which is warming up against bots. Now, I know you may feel like you don't need this, but even the best snipers on the game are doing this when they warm up. This is just a simple part of a warm-up routine every quickscoper does. Go into a preferably small map, put it on team deathmatch, and max out the amount of recruit bots on the opposing team. After you've done this, for about 15 minutes, just go around practicing your centering as well as practicing your headshot aim. I can assure you, if you do this as a warm-up routine every time before you play a multiplayer game, you're going to see some crazy improvement. The third and final tip I have for you all today is going to be timing. If you have already noticed, sniping on Black Ops 6 is way different than sniping on Black Ops Cold War, Black Ops 4, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 2, even the original Black Ops, as a matter of fact. Every Call of Duty game that has ever came out has a slightly different feel to sniping. Some Call of Duties have a relatively faster ADS on snipers. Some Call of Duties have a relatively slower ADS on snipers. Some Call of Duties allow you to fly around, and other Call of Duties restrict you to boots on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, this Call of Duty is not like any other Call of Duty we have ever had before. We have a brand new movement that has never been introduced to Call of Duty before, which is Omni movement. We have new maps, new weapons, and new experiences. The best way to practice getting your timing down is by simply playing the game. The more you play the game, the more natural it will feel, and you will notice your timing and response time increasing. Now that we have gotten you all up to speed on sniping and basically how snipers work on Black Ops 6, I'm going to give you my personal opinion on the best attachments on your weapons, as well as the best controller settings, graphic settings, and sensitivity. Alright, now without any further ado, we're going to jump right into the best attachments to use for your snipers. I'm going to give you the best possible attachments for all of the snipers that Black Ops 6 offers right now. Those snipers are the LR7, the LW3, as well as the SVD. Now, quick disclaimer, for all 3 of these attachments, you will need the wildcard Gunfighter. If you don't know what Gunfighter does, it essentially changes how many attachments you can put on your primary weapon. It changes the number from 5 attachments to 8 attachments. Now, granted, it does kind of suck if you want to have the best, smoothest experience possible to have 8 attachments on one gun, but hey, that's Call of Duty, you can't get everything right. Alright, with that being said, we're going to start off with the LR7, and these are basically all the attachments I'm using. For the muzzle, we're going to be using muzzle brake. What this is going to do is going to give you that first shot recoil control, as well as kick reset speed. The next attachment we have is actually going to be the long barrel. Now granted, the sniper is already a pretty impactful sniper. It doesn't really get that many hit markers, but if you want to minimize even that small chance of hit markers that you could possibly receive, put on long barrel and it will increase your damage range up to 3. The next attachment I actually use is going to be the marksman handguard. Now basically what this attachment does is it actually improves your accuracy when you're focusing, and it decreases recoil while reducing sway at the same time. For magazine, you want to rock the extended mag 1 simply because without it you will only have 5 shots in your magazine. Now this is a personal preference, but I do always recommend extended mag because who wouldn't want more bullets. For our rear grip, we're actually going to be using the ergonomic grip. Now what this attachment does, it actually gives you an increase in your slide to fire speed as well as your dive to fire speed. Also gives you an increase with your ADS. Now granted, you do have a con to this attachment, and that's going to be flinch resistant. The reason that I'm still using this attachment compared to the other ones is because you're getting 3 additional pluses to 1 negative. So at the end of the day, I think it's worth it. Alright, now for our stock, we're going to be using the combat stock. This will actually give you a huge increase to your flinch resistance as well as aim walking movement speed. So even though we just went down 3 for flinch resistance with the other attachment, this attachment puts us right back up where we used to be. Next up, and this is the most important attachment when it comes to sniping with any sniper you use on this game, is going to be the target laser. So like I said earlier in this video, what this laser does, it actually increases your aim idle sway delay as well as your aim walking steadiness. So that means if you line your crosshair up exactly where you want to shoot and then aim in, your crosshair is going to be in that position. This one attachment right here could make or break you hitting a shot or completely missing. Next up for fire mods, we have rapid fire. Now this attachment pretty much goes without saying. You want to be able to rebolt your sniper and shoot it again as fast as possible because you're going to be in a lot of intense gunfights. But yeah, that about wraps up all the attachments for the LR7. Let's move over to the LW3. Alright, now for the LW3, it's actually pretty similar when it comes to majority of the attachments. For the muzzle, you're going to want to rock muzzle brake. Barrel, you're going to want to use long barrel. For the stock pad, I'm actually using precision pad. Now the reason I'm using precision pad over marksman pad is because for the LW3, for whatever reason, it sways a lot more than the LR7. Alright, next up for the magazine, we're going to be using extended mag 1. After that, for the comb, we're going to be using ergonomic razor. Now, what this does, it gives you a plus in sprint to fire speed, a plus in dive to fire speed, and a plus to ADS. So it's very similar to the LR7's ergonomic grip attachment. I'm not sure why they changed it from ergonomic grip to ergonomic riser, but it does the exact same thing. So for the stock, I'm actually going to be using combat stock. Now that's because that 3% of flinch resistance that we lost, we actually get it right back, as well as some aim walking movement speed. For the laser, you already know you have to rock target laser. It should not even be a question. Lastly, for fire mods, make sure you have that on rapid fire. That pretty much wraps up all the attachments you need for the LW3. Let's move over to the SVD now. Alright, so now for the SVD, this is actually the one sniper out of all 3 that I've used the least. As you can see, I only have this sniper as level 22, and that's because as soon as I got diamond, I stopped using the sniper. It's not a bad sniper, it's just not a sniper for me. However, I have a lot of friends who love the sniper and actually do prefer it over everyone else. Now, with that being said, this right now is going to be the best attachments that I can get with this gun. For muzzle, you're going to go with muzzle brake. For barrel, you're going to go with long barrel once again. Under barrel, you actually are going to want to go with the lightweight handguard. The reason I like this other than precision is because I want that 3% up of aiming idle sway. For magazine, I have this actually empty. I don't think you really need extended mag simply because you already start with 10 bullets in your magazine size. For the comb, you want to run the combat riser. Now what this does, it gives you 3% of sprint to fire speed, which is always needed because all of these snipers have a very high ADS time. For stock, you're going to want to go with heavy stock. Now what this is going to do is give you 3% increase in flinch resistance, so it's going to be easier to hit those pop shots and quick scopes. For the laser, right now you have to do steady aim laser. Don't get me wrong, I definitely do recommend target laser, I just don't have it unlocked yet. Lastly, for firing mods, I actually do recommend doing recoil springs instead of rapid fire. Even though I don't have rapid fire unlocked, I'm not going to change this simply because you do get a lot of recoil when it comes to the SVD, and you don't really need rapid fire because it is a semi-automatic sniper. And that pretty much wraps up all of the best attachments you need for the LR7, the LW3, as well as the SVD. Now with that being said, if you're not running all blue attachments, you are behind. Basically what this will do, it unlocks a specialty called Recon. As you can see, this is pretty overpowered because what Recon actually does is allows enemies that can be seen through walls for a short time after respawning. That's basically wall hacks every time you die. If you get close to someone's spawn and you're trying to get a free elimination when they pass by you, but you get shot through a wall and you think they're hacking, they are not hacking, they are just using the Recon specialty. But yeah, that about wraps it up for all of the best attachments you can use on your snipers. Now I'm going to give you the best graphic settings as well as sensitivity. For low latency mode, make sure that you guys are playing on if you have a 20 series graphics card. However, if you have a 30 series graphics card or above, as you can see, I have a GeForce RTX 3070, you should be playing on plus boost. What this will do, it will give you an extra boost in performance, whether that's your frames, your latency, or overall how the game feels. Everything else in the display section you really don't need to worry about. You can just keep it at default. Now let's move over to quality. Now this is where you're going to notice the biggest decrease or increase in your performance. So for upscaling and sharpening, you want to change this from NVIDIA image scaling to NVIDIA DLSS. Now what this will do, it will give you a big boost in performance and FPS, as well as make your game feel smooth. With that being said, you can keep your VRAM target scale at 80, but if you want the most performance possible, drop this all the way down. Now granted, if you do this, you will see a decrease in quality, but you will see an increase in frames. So if you're one of those people who just want the most frames possible and is willing to sacrifice some quality, I would drop this all the way down to 50. With that being said, I'm not one of those people, so I'm going to put that right back up around 80. So for texture resolution, it's automatically set to high. I will put this on low or normal. For texture filter anisotropic, you want to take this off of ultra and put this on low. For depth of field, you can have this on if you would like to. It's not that big of a deal when it comes to your frames per second. I just personally will like it better if it's off, simply because I think it adds a little bit of motion blur, and that is something you do not want to be playing with. Detail quality, take this off a high and set it to low, as well as particle resolution. You don't have to go to very low for particle resolution. I would just go low because you still want your game to look pretty fair at least. Bullet impacts, you can leave this on. It won't really affect your frames too much. If you want the best frames possible, persistent effects is definitely something you should consider turning off, simply because it does make your frames go lower when it intensifies with any kind of crash or nade that appears on your game. Shader quality, I would take this off of high and set it down to low. On-demand texture streaming, I would take this off of optimize and set it to minimal, as well as setting local texture streaming quality to low. Alright, so this section right here, shadow and lighting, that is where it's going to get very hectic when it comes to your frames. As you can see, all of this stuff is on ultra, if not high. We need to set all of this to low and off. Just off this section alone, you'll notice that you'll have a huge increase in FPS and performance. One thing I will say though is if you're playing Warzone and you're playing competitively, shadows is a very good competitive advantage to have on. I would not turn it anywhere past normal though. For environment, you can just change all of this to the lowest setting possible because you will get frames from it and they really don't affect you negatively. Once we have all of these settings completed, all you need to do is go over to the next tab, which is view, press apply, and now we are on the view tab. So motion reduction preset, keep this off. It is not necessary at all. For field of view, this is all personal preference. I like playing on the highest FOV possible, as I do think you have a very good advantage of seeing things your opponents can't see. However, I have heard if you are playing on a lower FOV, it does increase your frames. For ADS field of view, make sure this is not on independent. Make sure it is on affected. What independent basically does, it kind of zooms out of your FOV a little bit and it makes your aim assist kind of wonky and it makes it harder to control recoil. Weapon field of view, leave this on default. Third party, if you are playing third party games, you can tweak with this, but this is on default for me since I don't. Vehicle field of view, keep that on default. World motion blur, turn that off. Weapon motion blur, turn that off. These are so bad. Sure, if you're playing casually, it'll give you a more cinematic look and feel to the game, but the reason not even pros play with motion blur on is because it can slightly change your sensitivity when you look left and right. Everything else on this tab is pretty much default, so we can go ahead and switch over to the next tab, which is our benchmarks. And honestly, here you really don't need to do anything. We pretty much just leave this as is. With that being said, that is pretty much all the settings you need to make sure your game is running as optimal and as smooth as possible.